Welcome to another Conversation with Bill. I'm Bill Haney with a very special guest today. Shannon Steele is Associate Executive Director of the North Oakland Headwaters Land Conservancy. For obvious reasons, we'll use the shorthand label for the organization, NOHLC, or just call it the Conservancy. As Shannon will explain for us, that's a very descriptive title for the organization because it makes clear just where it is located and what its focus is. As for Shannon's role, she has been a member of the NOHLC team since 2015. I've been fortunate to hear Shannon speak, and she talks about NOHLC and how she can attest that it's a fine organization about which she is very passionate. And she's passionate about the natural world also. She has been since she can remember. Her interest is in environmental issues, and that led her to complete a bachelor's degree in geography with a minor in biology. During her undergraduate years at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, Shannon acquired skills in Geographic Information System, GIS, through coursework and independent research. At NOHLC, Shannon performs geospatial work, and she assists with conservation planning, fund development, and outreach projects. Shannon, I know the title of your organization is very descriptive about where the organization is and where it's centered, and generally about what it does. But please tell us more about NOHLC.
Certainly. Well, thank you so much for having me. The North Oakland Headwaters Land Conservancy, more easily referred to as NOHLC, is a nonprofit environmental organization that focuses on land protection in northwest Oakland County. The main mission of the organization is to conserve the woods, fields, wetlands, and streams and natural resources in the headwaters regions of the Clinton, Huron, Shiawassee, and Flint rivers.
It is very strategically located and right near us, as a matter of fact,
Yes.
in Clarkston area. And we'll be talking about what a special place it is really here in North Oakland County. It's quite unusual to have the headwaters of 4 significant rivers and such proximity to each other. And we're fortunate then to have a conservancy that's dedicated to protecting land specifically in this area. Mm-hmm. But that raises the question of how long this has gone on and when did NOHLC first become established as an organization?
Yes, so NOHLC was established in 1972 by a group of Independence Township conservationists. The idea was to establish the practice of setting aside land for in perpetuity. And NOHLC was actually originally established as the Independence Township Land Trust, and it was one of the first land protection organizations in the state of Michigan. We have local citizens serving on our board, and volunteers have helped us pursue our mission throughout our 46 years of existence. And by the way, our board meetings are on the first Monday of every month, and they are open to the public.
Well, that's good to know. I'm going to have to get to one. I have not yet.
You're welcome.
Even though I know well about the organization and I've been on a field trip or two. I've heard, though, that land conservancies across the United States have actually protected more acreage in total than what is held by the National Park System and all the contiguous 48 states. If that's right, that's what I've heard. I'd like to know if I've got it right. And if so, how much land NOHLC has protected since its establishment?
Yeah, that actually is correct. Land conservancies and landowners have been able to work together to protect over 56 million acres across the United States. And to put that into perspective, that's about twice as much land that is held by the National Park System across the lower 48 states. And NOHLC specifically has preserved over 1,500 acres. That's primarily in northwest Oakland County, but we also have a property in Genesee County.
Well, I'm glad I got it right. That's a very impressive number.
Yeah.
But how do you really go about it, though? How do you protect the land?
So there are two main methods of land protection. We protect land through land donations or land purchases, and the other method is through establishing what's called a conservation easement.
An easement, okay. I think I can make a decent guess on that, but tell us more. What is a conservation easement?
So a conservation easement is basically a legal agreement between a landowner and a conservancy or government agency that establishes limitations on the use of that land in the interest of the conservation values of the property. So for example, a land conservancy and a landowner can work together to decide what activities should or should not be permitted in order to protect the environmental health of that property. Most often that means limiting the future construction that would take place on the property, but the Land Conservancy works with the landowner to figure out what their wishes are and what their future plans are for the property. And just like a piece of land can be donated or sold to a Land Conservancy, a conservation easement can be established through the sale or the donation of the values associated with the activities that would become restricted.
Ah, I see, yeah. So, but what would motivate somebody to do that? Is it that an individual just wants to dispose of a piece of property, or is it, are there other motives?
So there are many reasons why someone would want to donate a piece of land. We've had families come to our conservancy who have had a piece of property in their family for generations, and they really appreciate the outdoor recreation that the property provides, and they want to keep that property natural in the future for generations to come in their family. And sometimes an individual wants to create a preserve in honor of a loved one or a loved one who has passed. And sometimes there are quite simply more economic motivations at play. A landowner might be interested in the tax benefits that can come along with donating a piece of land or establishing an easement through donation. And sometimes, quite simply, people just want to create a lasting, significant impact in their own way by removing the future potential development that could occur on the forests and wetlands they feel make their property special.
You know, a few weeks ago, Sue Julian, your executive director, and Mike Doherty, one of your board members, and by the way, outstanding photographer who took some of the images that we're going to see here in this program, they led a bird walk on Davison Lake Overlook Preserve. I went along with a dozen members of our little Clarkston area backyard birders club, which isn't so little. It's grown 4 times in a year. And I remember when we were out there, it was a wonderful walk, saw a lot of birds, but there was one area we couldn't go into and didn't, stayed well away, because we were told that that was the habitat of a very special and very rare and endangered butterfly, and I think I have the name close to right, but you'll fix it if I don't. A power chic skipperling. Is that close?
Yep.
Tell us about this. What do many of your preserves have restricted areas like that, or are most of them fully accessible to the public?
So a variety of our preserves are indeed restricted, and such as is the case with portions of Davis Lake Overlook, some of our preserves encompass ecologically fragile areas that would be threatened by human visitation. Another factor is whether or not a conservation easement has public accessibility written in as one of the uses of the land. Sometimes a landowner wants to create a conservation easement but preserve their privacy. So for one reason or another, we have various preserves that are indeed restricted in terms of access, but we do have a number of preserves that are open to the community and have some really nice hiking trails. And we have a description of those properties that you can go visit listed on our website.
Oh, that would be helpful. Because I know people that are interested in the outdoors want to enjoy it, but also don't want to cause damage ecologically while they're there. And I know that you folks are gracious hosts when you do take people out in these treks and walks. But is that common, or were we really all that special, or is that a usual occurrence?
Well, first of all, yes, you were special,
No, thank you.
but it is a usual occurrence. We do host a number of walks and tours on our properties. We have walks led by our staff members as well as dedicated volunteers, and getting out on a tour of our properties is a great way to learn about our local flora and fauna. We post notices of upcoming walks on our website calendar and on our Facebook page.
Very helpful. And there are resources and facilities around here that I think many people are totally unaware of, within just minutes of where we are right now. But it makes you wonder, what kind of impact does land protection have on the community in general? And really, why should people, or should they, care about land protection?
Setting aside ecologically valuable pieces of land is an absolutely essential component of sustainable development. For example, a wetland area that's been set aside for protection can serve as an extremely effective natural water filtration system, helping with flood control and allowing a community to even rely on local drinking water sources in today's world. Plus, we all know the big services that trees provide us in improving air quality. And it's nice to have some wooded areas nearby for local aesthetics and for local property values.
I personally agree and applaud that kind of a philosophy. I don't know, though, whether studies have been done, scientific studies, that show that there are benefits to individuals. It's a good feeling, perhaps, but have there been any studies that show the benefits people get from being out in nature?
Yes, there are a growing number of studies showing all the various mental and physical health benefits that can arise from getting outside, being outdoors in nature. There's solid evidence that getting outdoors and breathing fresh air can lower our blood pressure, increase our ability to focus. It can help boost our immune system. So it's important that we have these natural areas. Actually, the other day in our office, we were talking about an article on the Japanese practice of forest bathing, which is quite simply getting outside and spending time near trees. But because in today's world we are so out of touch with nature, and so commonly, Japan has actually made forest bathing an official part of their public health program.
That actually doesn't surprise me as much as it might otherwise, simply because I've been to Japan a number of times, and I noted how people there put particular emphasis and revere their peaceful natural areas. And maybe it's because the big cities there are so crowded that people do appreciate it when they get away and get into the open spaces. But Michigan still has considerable open land, and took a ride yesterday over to Port Huron with my wonderful granddaughters, and enjoyed spending time over there near the Blue Water Bridge, and taking a boat trip. And on the way there, which is to go out Highway 69 for about an hour due east, and there is so much open land still. And it really makes you wonder why this particular location we're in, right here, why it is so important. And I wonder, is it because of the the proximity to the four headwaters. Is that part of it?
Yes, in this area of northwest Oakland County, we're located at 4 adjacent headwaters regions of the Clinton, Flint, Shiawassee, and Huron rivers. So that basically means that the surface and groundwater flowing from land in these 4 headwaters areas is what feeds into the origins of these 4 substantial rivers. So the types of land activity occurring in this area can have significant impacts on the downstream water quality of these rivers, and that's one reason why we have the word headwaters in our organization's name. This Conservancy's service area is hydrologically significant to the water quality of these rivers.
Very important that people understand that the joke that I feebly try to make is that one raindrop could fall from the sky and split into 4 parts and feed into these various rivers. I doubt that happens very much. But the founders of the organization recognized just how significant it is and how unusual, and they took on a lot of responsibility when they created this organization, and that's getting on to 50 years ago, right? So the successors, meaning you and generation before you, and the people that are working in it now, they sustained and they built on that wonderful foundation that the founders created. And it seems like you have expanded the mission, though, as time has gone by, to meet changing needs and opportunities. So are there other services then that NOHLC provides to this community?
Yeah, so besides protecting land for the future, we also try to provide our community with educational opportunities. We really try to teach our neighbors about our local natural world. We regularly publish electronic and physical newsletters highlighting our current projects as well as recent environmental news. We also have really active social media accounts that talk about anything from the impacts that invasive species are having on our area all the way to how to construct a dragonfly garden. So we're really constantly trying to provide inspirational and thought-provoking information to our community.
The invasive species, one thing we were talking about yesterday with the lamprey eel that's been a problem in the Great Lakes and other things, so that invasive, and the Phragmites, which have taken over and pretty much eradicated our cattails and other natural plants in certain areas, totally dominated it. And it makes me wonder if there are projects that NOHLC is working on, specific projects that you can tell us more about.
Sure. So from day to day, we are constantly working on stewarding our preserves, and one big example is removing Phragmites and keeping up with that. But some of our bigger projects include some land acquisition. We are currently working on acquiring a piece of property that encompasses prairie fen wetland, which is habitat to the federally endangered power-cheek skipperling butterfly that you previously mentioned. And historically, prairie fen have been pretty vulnerable to development in the area, and that is one reason for the decline in these butterflies. So as you can imagine, we're extremely excited to be working on that project. Another project that we're working on right now is acquiring a wetland that is actually part of Depot Park in Clarkston.
Really?
Yeah. And so we're really excited to be involved with maintaining the local water supply of Clarkston, and providing this natural water filtration system provided by this wetland and preserving habitat nearby.
That sounds exciting, but it must come with a price tag, because those are pretty significant projects. So where would your funding come from to do these things?
So as a 501c3 nonprofit, a majority of our funding does come from the community, although we do have grants and amounts of money that come from foundations. a large portion of our funding has come from the community, and that is what has allowed us to protect hundreds of acres in our area. So we really do appreciate our community's involvement. And other than grants and foundations, it's really community donations that keep us going.
I don't imagine you could survive without it, and let alone for 47 years. So it's been a blending of support, but heavily from the community. In addition, though, to the projects, you have ongoing expenses, I imagine, for the organization, like any organization does. So, how do you handle that?
Yes, so we do have quite a few costs, which include stewarding our preserves, maintaining educational outreach, liability insurance, office maintenance costs. We even have costs associated with acquiring properties even when they're donated. And that includes obtaining surveys, title searches, appraisals. So donations and fundraisers are actually what have largely accounted for the roughly $6,000 a month that we are spending to oversee our 1,500 acres and to continue to grow.
But even if you had unlimited financial resources, which obviously you don't, you still couldn't achieve, these are quite ambitious missions that you've got, and you've added over the years to respond to opportunities and needs in the community. But you couldn't do that even with unlimited funding if you didn't have good talent, energetic, fresh talent. So how do you do it? How do you bring in fresh blood into the organization? Or turning that around another way, what if somebody were interested in getting involved? How would a person go about doing that?
So there are a number of rewarding ways to get involved with NOHLC. Some of our volunteer opportunities include helping out with ecological monitoring of our preserves, helping out with educational outreach projects, and we have a variety of ways to get involved. As I mentioned, we have activities that are listed on our website. People can find projects listed there, and we also, if volunteering is outside of basically outside of your time constraints, donating is another way to get involved with the organization, if that's within your means. Some very passionate individuals have found additional ways to get involved with us, so far as to donate a piece of land to the Conservancy. And I've had people tell me that they feel their most significant way of leaving a legacy behind is through land protection and through being involved with the kinds of activities associated with land protection.
What would be the significance of a perpetual legacy of land? Tell me more about that.
So protecting land in perpetuity is an act of thinking beyond your own lifetime. It's about enabling future generations to have resources like swimmable and drinkable water, and areas to hike, and places where we can share existence with other species on this planet. I think protecting a piece of land provides more residual benefits than we can even understand at this point in time.
Well, I agree with that. I have felt for a long time that people take for granted what we inherited, my generation, the foundation that was laid for the electrical system and the water systems and others, and that it's really incumbent on people to pass it along to the next generation. I've lived here for Brandon Township area for about 20 years, and we've got 40 acres in the township, which is a mixture of high ground and marshes, wetlands, and some woods. That's very similar to the way the glacier left it 10,000 years or so ago, I guess it was. And something like that, well, my family and my kids and my wonderful grandkids enjoy it and our friends, and we feel like we're the custodians for it. But you can't, because you can't really own it. You can't own something like that. You're just fortunate if you're able to maintain it and clean it up as it often needs and improve it. And that's why it's really important to have an organization like NOHLC to raise people's awareness, you know, of the value of what we have here. And that I would like to see more people recognize what the Conservancy does. I've heard that you do have some events where that can be possible too. We're coming up in the fall that you have some activities. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, so 2 of our biggest events are coming up during the 1st and 2nd weekend of October. Our first event will be on the evening of Friday, October 5th, and that is called Wild Night Out. It will be held at the White Lake Oaks Country Club, and that will include a live and silent auction, live entertainment, and dinner and drinks. And then on the morning of October 14th, there will be a community cycling event called the Fall Color Back 40 Challenge. And that event is hosted every year by the Flying Rhino Cycling Club, but this year NOHLC has graciously been chosen by them as the benefiting nonprofit for that event. And you can find more information about those events on our website.
Excellent. And then it will also tell us about the various tours and other activities that are available.
Yep.
Well, it's obvious that you and your volunteers and your co-workers, your colleagues at NOHLC care very deeply about what you're doing. And I think you have hopes that the impact that the Conservancy is making now will continue and endure for future generations. So I hope that's the case. Yeah. I know you feel that this area of the county can continue to rely on local drinking water sources and the like. So it's been really nice to have you bring us up to date and expand our horizons on the property, the land, and the delicate nature of it. It's fragile. So thanks for being with us today. I've enjoyed it very much, and it's been extremely informative, and I wish the best for the North Oakland Headwaters Land Conservancy. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me.